There are some things Sigma men do that no one else can understand. There's always something new to learn about them, from their strange traits to their strange habits. Sigma men are the rarest kind of man in the world. Because of this, people don't know how to deal with them, and they are often misunderstood. Even though some of the things they do are unusual, there's usually a good reason for why they do what they do. You won't want to miss this, whether you're a Sigma or just want to know what makes them different. Here are 12 strange things that all Sigma men do that most people don't get. 1. They sit in the back of the room all the time. Sigma males don't like being in the spotlight, so they often choose to sit in the back of the room where they can watch everything without being noticed. So they can look at what's going on and figure out what's going on without being bothered. They're not trying to be unfriendly. They just don't like being the center of attention like alpha males do. When they sit in the back, they can also leave quickly if they need to, which is always a plus. If they are in a boring meeting or conference, it is easy for them to leave without being seen. People often think they are shy or not interested because they don't talk unless they have something important to say. But the truth is that they are so observant that they often know more about what's going on than anyone else in the room. This kind of person is always listening and taking everything in, but you'd never know it because they're so quiet. Staying in the background is just how they get information and avoid having to talk to people they don't need to. 2. They avoid salespeople who talk too much to the point where they don't buy anything from the store. When Sigma men are trying to shop, they don't like to be bothered. They would rather think about their options and make a choice without anyone else's help. They will ask for help if they have a question, but most of the time they would rather figure it out on their own. They hate feeling like they have to buy something, and they might even leave the store if a salesperson keeps following them around and trying to talk to them. They know it's part of the job, but they'd still rather not have to do it. They hate it when people try to sell them something by telling them everything about it or putting a lot of pressure on them. Sigma males are all about getting things done quickly, so they will move on to another store where they can get what they need without having to listen to all the sales pitches. If you want to sell something to a Sigma, you should get to the point quickly. Just tell them what they need to know and let them make their own choice. If they want to know more, they'll just ask. 3. Compliments don't always make them happy. It's not that Sigma men don't like it when good things are said about them. Getting praise for something you did well is nice, of course, but compliments can sometimes feel like traps, or the way they are given can be off-putting. Sigmas are usually very modest and don't need other people's approval to feel good about themselves. They know what they're worth and don't need other people to tell them what they're doing right. Also, they don't like it when people try to be nice to them just to get something back. Sigmas will be very turned off by this and they will see right through it quickly. Even though compliments are meant to make people happy, many Sigma men don't like it when people tell them they're smart or good at something. Most of them are already aware of how smart they are. When people listen to them and do what they say, it makes them feel good. It's fine to compliment a Sigma every once in a while, but you shouldn't do it too often. If you give a Sigma a lot of compliments, they might not pay attention to any of them. 4. They change walking direction to avoid crossing a big-mouthed person. People with a lot to say bother Sigma males a lot. They are always talking and trying to be the center of attention, and they never seem to know when to stop. They are loud, annoying, and just annoying in general. If they start talking to one of these people, it will be hard to get away, which will waste their time. So they change the way they walk, cross the street, or do anything else they can to get away from them. Sigma men value their time and don't want to spend it with people who drain them. They like talking to people, but they prefer to talk to people with whom they have something in common. Many people misinterpret this behavior and think that Sigma males are snobs, but they really just hate small talk and anything else that feels like a waste of time. We've all met people who love to talk about themselves, and Sigmas would rather avoid them at all costs. 5. They don't smile all the time. Some people might think that Sigma males are always serious and never smile, but that's not always the case. They just don't understand why other people smile all the time. This doesn't mean they're unhappy or not having fun. Sigmas are usually very introspective. They're not the kind of people who always need to show how they feel. People often think they are cold or distant when, in fact, they are just deep in thought. They think and feel about everything inside themselves and don't like to talk about it. A Sigma doesn't have to smile to show that he's having fun. He's happy just to be in the moment and doesn't need to share it with anyone else. Sigma men tend to be quieter and more introspective than alpha males, who tend to be more outgoing and talkative. 6. They may ignore phone calls. Sigma men don't like talking on the phone, so they might let calls go to voicemail or even just not answer them. Most of the time, they'd rather text or talk in person because it's faster and they don't have to waste time with small talk. They don't like small talk, so they'd rather just get to the point. Some people might think this is rude, but it's really just a matter of taste. Sigma men don't mean to be rude. They just don't want to talk on the phone all the time. If it's something important, they'll answer, but if it's not, they won't waste their time. If you try to get in touch with a Sigma and he doesn't answer, don't take it personally. Not because he doesn't like you, but because he does things his way. He won't change his plans or schedule just to help you out. So, the best way to get in touch with a Sigma is to send him a text message, so he can answer whenever he wants and on his own schedule. 7. They don't like being alone with boring and dramatic people. Nothing is worse for a Sigma than being stuck in a room with someone who doesn't have anything interesting to say or who keeps complaining about their problems. Life is too short to spend time with people who make us feel tired. Sigma males like to be around people who are interesting, make them think, and make them laugh. They need to be in charge of their surroundings and don't want to get pulled into something they can't handle. They're usually very independent and don't want to be around people who are needy or clingy. This may seem like a cold way to look at the world, but it makes perfect sense when you think about how successful Sigmas are and how they don't want anything or anyone to stop them from getting ahead. 8. When the doorbell rings, they act like they're not home. Sigma males are very good at being discreet, so it's not surprising that they often don't answer the door when the bell rings. If they don't know the person, they usually act like they're not home to avoid talking to them. They do this to avoid salespeople and other people who want to talk to them, but it can also be a way to stay private. This doesn't mean they're paranoid. It just means they value their privacy and time alone more than most people. They don't like to be interrupted when they're concentrating on something or don't feel like talking, so they often do this to stay in their own little world. Some people might think it's rude, but it's a pretty smart way to avoid being interrupted. Most people don't like it when they're ignored, but Sigma males don't really care. They're not trying to be rude. They're just busy with something else and don't have time for small talk. 9. They don't tell much to most people, but tell everything to a few. Sigmas are very picky about who they let into their close group of friends. They don't let anyone in just because. They only tell people they trust about what they think and feel. They like to keep to themselves and don't like to talk about themselves too much. They do this because they know that they can't trust everyone. People they thought were their friends have hurt them in the past. Now, they are very careful about who they let into their lives. When it comes to friends, they value quality over quantity. Sigma males are very loyal friends who will do anything for the people they care about, but they won't think twice about getting rid of someone if they think that person is dangerous or bad for them in any way. This won't happen very often, but when it does, the Sigma will never look back. 10. Being alone gives them a chance to recharge. Sigma males are the exact opposite of alpha males, who need to be in the spotlight and around other people to feel good. They often feel tired after being around people for too long, and they need time alone to get their energy back. Because of this, people often think of them as lone wolves. They don't need anyone else to feel happy or whole. Sigmas don't mind being alone and often find comfort in nature or their own thoughts. This is because they can get away from the noise and chaos of the world and recharge their batteries. They can clear their minds and feel ready to take on anything when they return. Many people think that being alone is bad, but Sigmas see it as a necessary part of life. It gives them a chance to start over and feel better when they get back. 11. They won't leave until their neighbor has also left. Some people like having close neighbors, but Sigma males like to have some space between them. They like to be alone and don't like to feel like someone is watching them. So if they see their neighbor leave, they usually wait a few minutes before they leave their own house. This doesn't mean they don't like their neighbors or aren't social, but they are tired of being asked the same questions every time they see them. Even though it's nice to talk for a while, sometimes you just want to get on with your day. The last thing you want is to be stuck in a long, boring conversation about your job, the weather, or something else you really don't care about. 12. They would rather sit back and watch than take part. Some people might think this is a bad trait, but Sigmas often prefer to stay in the background and watch. They would rather watch other people interact than take part in it themselves. This is because they want to know how and why people do what they do. They would rather be on the sidelines and watch everything than be in the middle of it. This doesn't mean Sigmas don't like to do things, it just means they like to do them their way. They don't want to be forced into anything, and they like to know what's going on before they get involved. There's a reason we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Sigma males live by this motto and would much rather listen to other people than talk about themselves. People can learn a lot about others just by listening to and watching them. This helps them figure out what people want or need and understand them better.